Have you been ever, worshiping, hands are raised in the air, the music is playing, but inside, nothing. No emotion, no connection, just empty. And then that's when you start to have those thoughts. Oh my gosh, is something wrong with me? Or worse if it, did God leave me? But listen, my friend, because this is very important. And that is that your worship does not feel empty because God left. It feels empty because something much deeper is going on in your heart. And Jesus actually explained this through real moments, real people, and real stories. I want to show you something in the book of Matthew, chapter 15, verse 8. And look what Jesus says here. These people draw near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Did you catch that? You can sing, you can pray, you could go to church every Sunday and, still be far from God. That is the first reason, my friend, your worship feels empty. You may be doing, all of the right things with a distant heart. There are people in Jesus's times known as, the Pharisees. They looked pretty and perfect on the outside. But look at what Jesus said here in Matthew chapter 23, verse 27. I'm sure a lot of us have heard of this one before. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like whitewashed tombs, which indeed appear beautiful outwardly, but inside are full of dead man's bones and all uncleanness. That is so heavy, my friend. Because that ultimately means you can look all spiritual on the outside and still feel spiritually empty in the inside. So here is deep unlock number 1, and that is that worship is about presence, not performance. Here's the deep truth, my friend. Worship is not about, how you sound on the outside, but rather worship, it's about how you are surrendered in the inside and how surrendered you are. Look at the story here with the woman with the alabaster flask. And behold, a woman in the city who was a sinner, when she knew that Jesus sat at the table in the Pharisee's house, brought an alabaster flask of fragrant oil and stood at his feet behind him weeping. And she began to wash his feet with her tears and wiped them with the hair of her head. And she kissed his feet and anointed them with the fragrant oil. You catch that, my friend? You notice, she didn't sing a song or, she didn't, say a speech. She just broke. And Jesus received it. Why? Because, my friend, her worship came from repentance and love, not performance. So let's go a little deeper here. And another reason why, your worship may feel empty, and that may be because you're still holding on to sin. And I'm not saying this to condemn you, but I'm saying this to hopefully free you. If I regard iniquity in my heart, the Lord will not hear. Now, that doesn't mean God abandoned you. It just simply means sin creates distance in your experience with him. Look at Judas, for example. Judas, he walked with Jesus. Judas, he saw all the miracles from Jesus. He heard the truth from Jesus. But his heart was attached to sin. And eventually, Judas couldn't even, stay in the presence of Jesus. Here is deep unlock number 2, and that is that sin doesn't just break rules, but sin, it also breaks connection. Here's the second deep truth, and it's that, sin doesn't just, make you guilty, but sin, it also makes you distant from Jesus. And that's why worship may feel empty, because ultimately worship is intimacy, and sin blocks intimacy. But here is the hope. Look at what it says here in 1 John chapter 1 verse 9. Check this out. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Not reject you, not shame you, cleanses you. Now, the next thing I might say might hit some of you, and that is that, some of you don't actually miss God, but rather you just missed the feeling of God. And there's a difference, because in John chapter 20, verse 29, it says, Jesus said to him, Thomas, because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. That means real faith does not depend on feelings. Look at Jesus on the cross, for example. Did Jesus feel God when he was there? No. He said, my God, why have you forsaken me? But God hadn't left. Something much deeper was happening here. And that leads me to deep unlock number 3. And that is that true worship is faith, not feeling. Here's the third truth, my friend. Real worship continues even when you feel nothing. That's maturity, and that's real love. Because anyone can worship when they feel something, but faith says, I will worship even when it's silent. So let's bring it all the way back. Why does your worship feel empty? Well, to summarize this video, here are 3 reasons why it may feel empty. Reason number 1 is it became performance. Reason number 2, sin hasn't been maybe fully surrendered yet. And reason number 3 is you may be chasing feelings. But the real answer is this. Listen very carefully. If there's one thing to take away from this whole video, it's this one line right here. And that is that worship was never for you. Worship was always about Jesus Christ. And the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for the Father is seeking such to worship him. Simple as this. Spirit equals heart, and truth equals Jesus. That is it, my friend. So let's end this message with a hope and call to action, my friend. If your worship feels empty right now, that does not mean God is far. It might mean he's actually inviting you much deeper. Not louder songs, not more effort, but more surrender. Turn away from sin, stop performing, stop chasing feelings, and come back to Jesus Christ, my friend, because of this promise right here. Draw near to God, and He will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Not maybe, not sometimes, He will. If there's one thing to take away from this whole message, it is this, my friend. Your worship is not empty because God left you. Your worship is empty because He is calling you to something much, much more real. And that something is Him, Jesus Christ.